Well, I've got some good news and some bad news. The good news is Galvin is set to play. We'll get proper confirmation at 6 p.m. tonight before the games anyway, but Benji's come out in a presser and said that he's good to go. It does sound like he was battling with that wrist or arm injury, and he's got through today, captain's run, and looks like he's okay to go. So that's happy days for our sides here, and means I don't have to make a secondary trade, which I think is going to be gold come later down the track. So that's my plan this week, is to get through this week without making that extra trade. But there's obviously 264k in my bank, and I might be tempted to trade, that's for sure. The bad news, Adam Fanua Blake has been stood down by the club of all things. Apparently he left the change room straight after the game, didn't even stay for the team song, so that's not ideal. And he's been stood down for this game. I imagine it's a one-game stand down, and in that scenario, he is a hold. But I do understand if you want to yeet him to the moon, but I don't think it's the best decision. Let's just say that. So, now, looking at my side. I still have Cotter as vice. I haven't changed that yet. Who will be my vice captain? We have early games in the week. Who is my best player in the early games? There you go. That's how we need to look at it. Maybe Big Maxi King could be the vice this week, eh? Maybe. Plathy boy, you're later in the week, aren't you? So you can come out for the King Man. He's starting. So I think we will lock that in as my vice this week, Mr. Maximilian Pegasus. And I will be sticking with Nico Hines as captain against the Panthers. I don't think that matters. He's clearly my best player, and the Panthers aren't playing terrifically well at the moment, so we're going to lock it in that scenario there. The only guys that I may be looking to remove eventually in my side are Piakura, and we have to see what's going to happen with Fuller and my side as well, depending on trades as well, where I'm at and what I can do in round 14. At the moment, I've got the 5 out with Crichton, but he will likely go next week. For who? Good question. Do I maybe not make that trade next week and then leave it for round 14 as a potential trade out? We'll wait and see. We'll have to see what happens. This is obviously pending no injuries, because I'll have a full 13 next week pending no injuries or suspensions or anything else. And I'm not expecting the world out of this week, but I also still think that I should be able to go fairly solidly in this week there. Coming up anyway, with Kaipis, Paul, Brayley and Armstrong out, along with Fuller being out as well. I think that we should be able to do fine. If Piakura can get a 30 odd like he did last week, if Cotter can go back to a decent score, if King can go well again, Blory, maybe Jag a try or something like that, and Karaz to continue and Drinky to continue doing their thing, I think we'll be fine. I need Lussick to step up as well. So it's Lussick and Piakura, the two guys I'd prefer to have out of my side. And then eventually Sam Hughes, but I think he's going to be held throughout pretty much the whole entire bye period, because I was just doing my numbers just then. So I got into my Word doc. This is just to have my collection of groups, just to slot them out together. I write down how many I've got for each week, and then I flag it with the yellow one there if I am short in that week. So this is my current squad with the hooker. I've got probably one too many hookers at this stage, but I'm well covered apart from I needing one in round 16, but I doubt that all three of those guys are going to make it to that far. For my mids, I've dropped one now. I lost Salmon and Jolliffe. So unfortunately, Salmon made the 5th. Jolliffe is switched with Max King. So that's who's coming in for JJ as my straight round 13 placement and a replacement. And my mids are fairly strong for that period. I've got 3 in 13, 14, same in 16, 4 in 17. I'm short a couple in round 19, so I've got to sort that one out. Sorry, I stuffed that up down here. I said I needed 1 mid. I need 2 mids, so that'll be cool. But by that point, I think we'll have a few options. In the edges, I've got 4, and I'm still short 1 in round 16. But again, does Piakura make it that far? Does Crichton make it that far? Does Cotter make it that far as well? So we'll have to work out who are the best options across those middle rounds, because I haven't gone through it exactly apart from 13 and 14 heading into this week. So 4 edges, probably 1 too many on that front as well. Piakura could easily go. He misses 13 and 16 anyway. Halves, we've got Hines, Galvin, Weeks currently. I think Hines probably gets held throughout the entirety of the season. I'll probably want him as my captain in either round 14, 15, because I don't have any clear captaincy options right now outside of Hines. Galvin and Weeks, so thankfully Galvin's fine. We need him over this period. He's very, very important. And then in round 13, it won't be Hines, so it's going to be Atkinson that comes up. So in round 13, I've only got Weeks, so Atkinson will come up. I don't need him for round 13. I've got Armstrong, Fuller, and Drinky in that wing fullback slot. And then really for my halves, I only need a round 19 number. And that's obviously if players back up as well. If Hines backs up in 14, I'm sweet. If he doesn't, then a lot of us will be pretty cooked in that week too. And I'll definitely won't be able to hold like a Fuller or something like that. Round 19, we need one half. Centre, we're good for the entirety of the time, but obviously I'd like to be able to use Karaz, could potentially use an Aiken in another position. So if we do have an extra wing fullback or an extra dual someone, then that means that Karaz or Aiken can help in other positions. So up and down. But yeah, set across the centres for that time. And in the wing fullbacks, I've got just two missing in round 16, but the rest of the weeks are sweet. That's if I do keep Fuller in the side, and he's very helpful because he is the only player that I have for that round 16 number. So if I was to remove him, I'd have a few things to sort out for round 16. But what that does leave me with is round 16, I need one hooker. I need one edge. I'm not sure on the hooker at the moment. Edge, I'm looking at Eli Katoa for sure. And then two wing fullbacks / centers. So, if I get a center, then Karaz can pop down to wing fullback for this week, for example. But Garrick, I'm heavily targeting for round 14 or 15 easily. And then Joey Manu is a potential one as well. It doesn't help in round 19, but we are adding to that wing fullback or center position, not subtracting unless Fuller's the one to go. But yeah, we'll see what happens with Atkinson. There's all those things to work out across the way. But then in round 9, I'm set in half set in 14, definitely set in 17. I've got 21 available players, 20 if Fuller's not there. And then round 19, we need two mids. I don't know at the moment who those are going to be. It's not an exciting position, especially with AFB going down, but Tohu Harris might be an interesting one if he can get some minutes back. And then we need a half for round 19. So again, something we'll have to work out a little bit closer to that. But that's the first little spreadsheet I'm going through, and then we get into the Excel side of things, and I go through my squad here. So currently with 13 for round 13, 16 or 17 at the moment. Obviously with Crichton being that guy, I'll likely sell in that week or this next week coming. Round 15, I'm all sweet, just the 3 out. Round 19, round 16, I have 9 currently. So yeah, a little bit of work to do, as I just said, with 4 players to get, and I just specifically outline them, which is good for my brain, obviously there. 21 in round 17 or 20, 19 in 18, and then we've got 11 currently for round 19. Pretty solid. There's a couple of those players that I need, obviously there. I think that means I have double ups, isn't it? And then round 20, I have 17. Yeah, so I have a double up there in one of the positions. Which one was it? Round 19 for... Which position was it? Edge. Mid. I got 2 maybe hookers. Not sure. Anyway, I'll work that out. May have did a little misclick on the correct numbers there, but yeah, that's where we're at on that front. So yeah, I think probably all I need to chat about around my team. Just hoping I can do pretty solidly this week. Maybe make a few ranks. If I can get this overall score from 9,066 to 1,000, that means I got a 934 this week, and hopefully that's enough to make some ranks. And yeah, I'm sitting in this week coming into Origin with 4 Origin players, probably removing 1 next week, depending on how many issues that come up in this round 12 clash for all these teams. So yeah, I think we're sitting in a pretty good position. We will have a bunch of cheapies coming into next week, but they're obviously going to help us across the bye period. I don't have any sort of non-players, which is great. My sort of worst scorer, got 62 2 weeks ago in an Atkinson. If we can call him our worst, probably it's Lussick or definitely Piakura. Not last week. Sorry, not the one just gone, but the weeks prior. So it's Lussick, Piakura, Hughes, and Atkinson. I'm not super excited about. Everyone else is doing really well. So I'll probably be able to, with that cash in bank, I'll be able to remove one of those cheaper players over the next few weeks, especially Lussick. Like, I'll be able to go easily up from him and remove that hooking issue and improve, like, get him to Garrick or get him to a mid that's dual position, something like that there. Also just got a little bit of news that Luke Garner has actually just come up injured, so maybe it's just a 1 week thing and he might come back onto the bench there or something like that with Sorensen and muck around with that. But they also have Liam Martin, who is going to be out round 13, should play less minutes in 14, 17, 20. So keep that in mind with him. But I'll be doing some research on those that mid kind of position for round 16 and the wing fullback for 16 and stuff as well. So yeah, that's my team, guys. Let me know where you're at in terms of your trades this week in the comments, and I'll show you my head-to-head team now, which needs a little bit of work. Guys, the head-to-head team's a little bit of a mess at the moment. We have a lot of cash in the bank at 711, and the big question here is, do we double trade this week, or we just do a single trade and make a nice little upgrade there of potentially Brennan Pikura to a Eli Katoa? That's definitely on the cards this week. There was a little bit of a worry on Galvin being out previously, so I was potentially doing some muck arounds with Joey Manu, which I think is probably a good idea, to be honest there, because in that scenario, I can have Weeks be a guy that can cover the half position, considering I don't have Hines there. Like, I could make it a Brown, Galvin, Weeks combo. Manu can come into the wing fullback. We are likely to lose Talangi in the next few weeks, so hopefully, for this team's sake, we can get him for round 14 with Manu being out and can go from there. So I'm very much thinking this week the best option for this squad is to get Joey. I think he's a terrific player to have. It's either Joey or Joseph or Dom Young, to be honest with you. And if I did go for Dom Young instead, I could then go... I got Silva Havili there, who I think I'm just going to leave him as my hooker cover, to be honest with you there. But if Pikura goes to Manu this week, right, that leaves me in a 304k salary remaining situation. And in that case, we could then use that second trade with Havili to do that. But I'm also concerned about the amount of trades I have remaining. And so I would therefore just look to loop this week. So just make the one trade in and then loop in that first game with Husey. And he's going to be in that, so that'll be cool. So I'll just loop him in that first one. Move, whoops, wrong person. Yeah, oh, yeah, Strange will do. And then we've got Cole that we can muck around with as well. That would be sweet. And we can decide then. So Husey, put him in number 5. I've got 3 out this week, which is sweet. And then, who's the next one out of that crew? Always have a look at this yourself, guys. Hope this helps you with your analysis. But you've got Penrith later than Raiders. So I could then muck around with Strangey as well if we wanted to on that front. We could also just go Hughes in number 6 and make that decision there. If we aren't too keen on Hughes' score, actually, yeah, it doesn't matter. If we don't like Hughes' score, then we're going to have to play Strange anyway, and that'll be 17. So yeah, we'll leave it at that, I think, there. For this side, it obviously means, playing Havili, which off the bench, I still think he gets decent minutes. I could obviously use that 304k to get to someone half decent, but I think the trade situation is the worry right now for this side, and we are going to have Tohu back. We are going to have Armstrong and Kaipi's Paul back. Everyone in here can score fairly well. Like, I think, we could easily take Hughes' score, and Stranger's up against Roosters, so I'm not super excited about that. I'm going to go Dylan Brown as captain, though, which I am pretty excited about. I think he'll be able to do well this week, this week, yes. And Drinky can be vice this week, given Reedy can be vice. He'll be pretty safe there in the first game there for sure. So yeah, Dylan Brown is captain over Hines. Hopefully they can score the same for us Dylan Brown owners in this side. And yeah, the rest of the guys can do well. I'm excited about having Manu in the team now. Let me know if you would do something different in this side, just because it's an interesting one, because I do need to try and chase a little bit, considering I've just had a bundle of average trades and bad luck. But I obviously don't spend as much time on this head-to-head side. I just want to get myself in a good position to then hold trades at certain points, heading into different weeks where, like next week, I think half my head-to-heads have a bye and half don't. So if we're looking at numbers for next week, just straight up without looking at positions, we've got Reed, Plath, Nikora, Brown, Aro, Talangi. That's 6. Weeks is 7. Drinkwater is 8. Cole is 9. Manu is 10. Armstrong's 11. Hughes is 12. Kaipi's Paul and Strange 13 and 14. So if there was to be an injury next week, I would not have to trade for that, which would be cool. I'm very much happy with that situation. And yeah, that's all we're gonna do. We won't have to trade next week. We'll have 13 or 14 potentially on the park, which would be awesome. So I can hopefully win half of those head-to-heads, and then the other ones I've got to rest. I can hold off on trades, and then round 14 I'll have 304k to launch into to launch into whoever I want to get in round 14, which I think is a really, really good strategy for this side. So I'm going to hold off on the second and third trade and go from there. Thanks for being here, guys. I hope that helped you with your head-to-head sides. And just based off your situation, obviously, that's the situation I'm in right now, where half my leagues play 13, so it's good to have that number, get those wins on the board, likely, hopefully, and then can still save trades and launch into round 14. If you're sitting around 11 heading into next week, then maybe you get to 11 or 12 if you've half your comps play head-to-heads. If your main comp doesn't have a game next week, then don't worry about it. Just put your feet up and chill out and then launch around 14 or 15. It's going to be a really good way to do it. So good luck this week, guys. That is my last video until we get that review tomorrow. See you guys. Have a cracking one.